Television of the 60s and 70s looked bright on the surface, yet underneath it pulsed with danger, rebellion, and ideas society feared to face. These retro shows carried themes too raw, too bold, or too shocking for the world around them. What happens when a harmless screen becomes a cultural battlefield? Let us uncover 15 retro shows that were simply too controversial for their time. Maude, 1972. Maude emerged during a decade already overwhelmed with cultural tension, yet this fearless sitcom amplified every unresolved issue with unapologetic honesty. B. Arthur portrayed Maude Findlay as a sharp, outspoken woman who challenged social structures, religious norms, and political hypocrisy at every turn. This alone made the show bold, yet one storyline pushed it into national controversy and forever etched it into television history. That moment arrived when Maude faced an unexpected pregnancy and chose to have an abortion. For 1972, this was unheard of. No other mainstream television show dared to explore such a private, emotional, and politically volatile decision. Viewers reacted with shock. Some applauded the bravery. Others demanded the cancellation of the series. Religious groups protested. Politicians entered the debate. Television stations in multiple regions refused to air the episode entirely. Yet the show stood firm. It continued exploring themes of feminism, mental health, racial tension, and middle-age frustration without hesitation. Maude refused to shrink itself to please gatekeepers. Every episode sparked discussion, and its willingness to reflect the evolving voice of American women made it both beloved and feared. The controversy surrounding its groundbreaking storyline became a national flashpoint, but it also empowered viewers who had never seen their struggles represented honestly. Maude transformed television by declaring that comedy could carry emotional depth, social responsibility, and unflinching realism. That defiance immortalized it as one of the most provocative shows of the era. The Prisoner, 1967. The Prisoner arrived as a surreal psychological thriller that challenged every traditional rule of television storytelling. Patrick McGoohan created a mysterious world built on paranoia, surveillance identity control, and philosophical conflict. It looked like a spy show, yet acted like an allegory about totalitarianism and personal freedom. Audiences expecting simple adventure faced a labyrinth of bizarre symbolism that unsettled nearly everyone. Networks were baffled by its tone. Viewers were divided between admiration and confusion. Governments even grew uncomfortable because the show mirrored real Cold War anxieties. The Prisoner portrayed an unnamed authority that manipulated citizens, erased individuality, and punished nonconformity. For an era terrified of ideological infiltration, such themes felt dangerously close to home. Newspapers accused the show of being too strange, too subversive, and too intellectual for mainstream viewers. Critics argued that its dreamlike narrative challenged social order by encouraging viewers to question authority. The unresolved ending sparked national uproar, with viewers demanding explanations, while networks worried about escalating backlash. Although controversial, The Prisoner became a visionary masterpiece ahead of its time. It predicted future debates about surveillance, loss of privacy, and government power. The show proved that science fiction could be political, philosophical, and unsettling in ways far beyond traditional genre boundaries. It terrified censors yet inspired generations of storytellers who saw danger, truth, and beauty hidden within its surreal rebellion. Soap, 1977. Soap debuted as a parody of daytime melodrama, yet it instantly became one of the most explosive lightning rods of the decade. Its humor was wild, its storylines outrageous, and its willingness to tackle taboo themes made it a constant target for protests. Conservative groups demanded its cancellation before the first episode even aired, simply because early reports described it as immoral. The controversy grew when the show introduced Jodi Dallas, one of the earliest openly gay characters in American prime time. For 1977, this was groundbreaking and polarizing. Some applauded the representation while others denounced it as an attack on traditional values. Entire communities boycotted sponsors. Religious organizations warned families to avoid the show altogether. Soap also mocked politics, religion, mental health, and societal expectations. Each outrageous twist challenged standards networks usually protected. The show reveled in its boldness, yet every daring storyline ignited fresh outrage. Newspapers filled with debates, viewers argued passionately, sponsors worried. Despite the chaos, Soap developed a fiercely loyal audience drawn to its fearless creativity. It revealed deeper truths through absurd comedy and exposed how fragile social norms could be when confronted with satire. Many of its themes predicted future discussions about identity, gender roles, and representation. Soap remains one of the most controversial sitcoms ever created because it refused to conform. It dared to challenge the moral boundaries of its time, proving comedy could be sharp, rebellious, and transformative, even when the world was not ready for it. Twilight Zone controversial episodes, 1960. The Twilight Zone existed as a science fiction anthology, yet its most controversial episodes struck at the heart of political fear, prejudice, and national anxiety. Rod Serling understood that fantasy could disguise profound social critique, and he used that power to expose injustices networks refused to address directly. This subtle rebellion often passed censors until viewers realized the deeper meaning hidden within each surreal tale. Episodes like those confronting racial hatred, conformity, censorship, nuclear terror, and authoritarian control shook audiences who expected simple, supernatural entertainment. Instead, they found themselves face to face with uncomfortable truths about society and human nature. Critics accused the series of smuggling dangerous ideas into homes by using allegory to criticize real institutions. Religious groups protested segments that challenged dogma, while politicians complained that the show undermined national unity during a tense Cold War climate. Network executives grew nervous whenever Serling pushed boundaries. They demanded rewrites, softened language, and safer outcomes, yet he repeatedly found clever ways to deliver his message without losing narrative power. Some episodes were temporarily shelved or altered for fear they might ignite protests. Despite opposition, The Twilight Zone established itself as television's most daring philosophical laboratory. It confronted viewers with moral dilemmas, existential dread, and the fragile illusions holding society together. Serling proved that even in a restrictive era, creativity could thrive within the shadows of metaphor. The series used imagination to reveal truth, and controversy became its signature. La Cage aux Folles. TV adaptation attempt, 1976. The attempted television adaptation of La Cage aux Folles became one of the most controversial, unrealized projects of the decade. Although the film and stage versions were international sensations, the idea of bringing a story centered on a gay couple to American broadcast television ignited immediate backlash. Before cameras even rolled, critics declared it unacceptable for family programming. Networks feared that advertisers would flee, and local stations threatened to refuse any airing. The creative team struggled to maintain the heart of the story, while network executives demanded drastic changes that would dilute its themes of identity, love, and authenticity. Every meeting revealed the same battle. Artists wanted honesty, while television authorities wanted containment. Religious organizations launched protests. Political groups issued warnings. Newspapers debated whether such representation would corrupt viewers or signal moral collapse. The debate grew so heated that the series collapsed under its own cultural weight before production could proceed. Although the adaptation never reached screens, its controversy left a significant mark on television history. It forced public discussion about representation censorship and the limits placed on LGBTQ stories. By existing only as a possibility, La Cage aux Folles demonstrated how deeply society resisted acknowledging queer lives on mainstream platforms. Its failure revealed the fears shaping 70s television and foreshadowed the slow, difficult evolution of representation. Julia, 1968. Julia became groundbreaking the moment it premiered because it centered on a successful black single mother working as a professional nurse. This simple premise challenged decades of stereotypical portrayals and forced television to confront deeply rooted racial expectations. For many viewers, this representation felt empowering and long overdue. For others, it ignited outrage because it disrupted the narrow images they had grown comfortable with. The controversy grew as activists and critics debated the show's portrayal of racial progress. Some argued Julia presented a sanitized, unrealistic version of black life, avoiding systemic obstacles. Others praised it for breaking barriers and offering an image of dignity, independence, and professional achievement. This tension placed the show at the center of a national conversation about representation and realism. Television stations in certain regions resisted airing the program, claiming audiences were not ready for such a narrative. Advertisers worried, yet ratings surged as viewers embraced Julia's charm, humor, and emotional depth. Every episode quietly challenged old assumptions. Julia was not a maidservant or comic relief. She was a fully realized character, navigating motherhood, work, and community with grace and complexity. That alone threatened decades of racial stereotypes. Julia's legacy is defined by both its triumph and its controversy. It broke ground simply by existing and forced audiences to reconsider who deserved to be seen on screen. The debate surrounding the show revealed the cultural divide of the era, and its impact shaped future generations of storytelling. That was the week that was 1964. That was the week that was arrived like a lightning bolt, disguised as a news satire program. It mocked political leaders, scrutinized national decisions, and exposed social hypocrisies with a sharpness that stunned audiences. Viewers had never seen a show so willing to confront authority without hesitation. Politicians quickly realized the danger and began pressuring the network to control or silence the series. Its sketches targeted election scandals, foreign policy disasters, moral panics, and even the credibility of major institutions. For an era that demanded polite television, this unfiltered satire was alarming. Critics claimed it damaged national stability by encouraging viewers to distrust leadership. Others insisted it was the only honest commentary on a rapidly changing world. The debate spiraled into public confrontation, with newspapers weighing in daily. Censors attempted to soften the edges, but each attempt failed because satire flourishes on truth. Writers pushed forward, delivering sharper commentary and more biting humor. The more controversy the show generated, the more viewers tuned in. Yet pressure from powerful groups eventually forced the network to retreat. That was the week that was remains an early example of political satire's explosive power. It challenged authority long before such boldness became acceptable, and its legacy shaped future generations of fearless satirists who refused to stay silent. Mary Hartman, 1976. Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman arrived as a soap opera parody, yet quickly mutated into one of the strangest, darkest, and most polarizing shows of its decade. Its setting looked familiar, a quiet suburban town. Yet beneath this surface lived emotional collapse, consumerist despair, and human absurdity. The tone was unsettling, as the show dared to explore mental breakdown, commercial numbness, and the growing emptiness of modern life. Audiences were blindsided. Some viewers felt hypnotized by its raw authenticity. Others were disturbed by its bleak portrayal of American suburbia. Religious organizations attacked its moral ambiguity, Critics argued that the show stripped away the comforting illusions people relied on to survive daily life. Its slow psychological unraveling shattered expectations of what television could depict. Stations in several regions refused to air episodes fearing community backlash. Sponsors hesitated. Yet the show developed a cult following because it spoke honestly about depression, conformity, and cultural exhaustion. Every character carried wounds. Every storyline peeled away another layer of suburban myth. Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman stands today as a groundbreaking yet unsettling experiment. It proved television could confront emotional darkness not through spectacle, but through quiet realism. Its controversy revealed the cultural fears of its time, and its vision remains years ahead of mainstream programming.